You mentioned Chelsea. We start with a 6-pointer in the race for Champions League qualification at St James's Park, and it is Newcastle against Chelsea. Let's hear from the managers.
Chelsea gave us one of our toughest games of the season at Stamford Bridge earlier this season. I thought they were excellent, and I think they've started to recapture that form in their recent games. I think Enzo's a very, very good manager. He's very clever with what he does, with the style of play that they possess, and I think they've got really good attacking players that can hurt us if we're not right. So we need to get our preparation right.
It's a big one. It's a huge one. United will be a big one. Forest will be a big one. Now we have 3 more games that all of them, they're going to be big games. For sure, Sunday, it's a chance to start in the right way. We are in a good run, in a good mood, and hopefully we can play a good game and win the game.
Yeah, they really are in a good run, in a good mood. It feels like the momentum's with them. They obviously beat Liverpool last time out, which was major. A little bit expected. Liverpool had already wrapped it up. They had a party way into the night at Anfield and then went and lost at Stamford Bridge. Chelsea are in a good run of form, but this is a 6-pointer.
This is a big game. It's a big game. There's a few teams going for those top 5 spots. And of course, St James away is not an easy feat for any team. So they know that if they manage to get a result here, it puts them with a good chance. But Newcastle know that if they equally get a result, it just means that it makes the whole thing really interesting. And yeah, those midfields as well. It's going to be a big battle.
Yeah, really looking forward to the fact that Chelsea, obviously they beat Liverpool. That'll be a big bonus for them. They're into the final, bonus for them. But the biggest bonus, I think, is Cole Palmer returning to the score sheet for the first time since Jan.
Yeah, I think obviously it's been a big topic, big issue. I don't think his performance has been that bad. I think they've gradually been getting better, scripted back to basics. But yeah, I think finding the back of the net with that penalty, just giving that a lot more confidence. But Chelsea going into this game, what I would say they're doing is they're finding a way to win football games again. And like you say, they're gaining that momentum. They had a really bad start to the year. But this is when it matters. And going into the game, Newcastle, Eddie Howe will expect a reaction. Disappointing result at Brighton last week. Didn't really seem to get off the bus, in all honesty. So it's going to be a big clash on Tyneside.
Have you ever been in a position like that where you are...
too many times. I'm an expert.
Obviously touched a nerve here because I didn't even finish the question. I didn't even finish the question. So what do you do then? What is it about? Because he came out and he was talking about trolls on social media after that, and you can tell that he'd been struggling. Enzo Maresca said a few weeks ago it's a mental problem now as well. What do you think? What did you see in that game against Liverpool? Because it was a great performance from him that you think went right, that you could see was a big difference.
Well, listen, when his technical ability is always going to be there, but I think what really benefits Cole Palmer is Nicholas Jackson in the team, because when Nicholas Jackson plays for Chelsea, he's got his critics when it comes to being in front of goal, but in general play, this is what he does. He doesn't quite get hold of the ball, but he stretches the play, which then gives Cole Palmer a little bit of space in that number 10 position. And then once you when you're in these runs, you strip it back to basics, and then your confidence slowly comes back more and more. And we can see here in this game, he just got better and better. Again, it's not Nicholas Jackson, it's Madueke, but a forward runner, someone to play the ball. And that's ultimately what Cole Palmer does. He always wants to impact the game. He wants to play forward all the time. And here, this is the cheeky Cole Palmer we've become used to. And then this will be a sight for sore eyes for Chelsea fans, finally hitting the back of the net. But when it comes to when you talk about, we see his touch map there, so it shows how influential he was on the game. But when we talk about kind of being in a bad run of form, when you've been so good as Cole Palmer has been, he's been getting the plaudits, people soon turn on you. And it's all that package of being a young man. It's the first time it's happened to him, so it's all new to him. But next time, this won't last as long because he'll know how to come out of the other side.
What do you do? Just because you said you've been through something like that, what do you do? Do you go back to basics?
Yeah.
How much are you overthinking everything?
Well, because you want to do well, you over-try, you try things that possibly you wouldn't have done when you were in that rich vein of form. You drift into areas, maybe you don't really want the ball, you try and get involved. It's about just going back to basics, keeping the ball, 5, 6, 7, 8 passes, and then building off the back of that, building that confidence, and slowly but surely you'll hit that form again.
Isn't it interesting what Glenn was saying? You know, it's the first time we've really seen this from Cole Palmer. He kind of burst onto the scene. He was allowed to be free, ice cold Cole Palmer. And then this was happening, and it wasn't, everything he was touching just seemed to be so unlike what we've seen from him. And suddenly there was a little bit of pressure.
I think that's the frustrating thing for him as well, because it's not a moment he's dealt with, and it's a very young team. It's not like there's a lot of experienced heads to put a hand around the shoulder and say, listen, you've got this. And I always say that in life, you have to protect the breadwinner. That's what he is to Chelsea. He makes things happen. So there were times where he was creating chances and no one was putting them away. So the irony of him scoring the penalty that Caicedo worked hard for was a beautiful moment. It feels like everyone else is pulling the boat forward and he can be the captain to sort of sail the ship. So it's needed, especially with the games coming up right now. Jackson being on the score sheet, him creating, they can hopefully take that form and seal Champions League football.
What about from a Newcastle point of view? As you mentioned, they want a reaction. They needed Alexander Isak to rescue a point for them last time out.
Yes, I think with Newcastle, it's an interesting one because their whole season has been an interesting journey. At the beginning, people kind of thought, where are they? And then suddenly they just surged to be in this position. And a lot of people are always going to talk about Isak because of his goal scoring exploits, but Jacob Murphy's been amazing this season. I think that this game in particular, Tonali is going to be so important. Between him and Caicedo, they're probably going to cover every blade of grass
Twice.
on the pitch, twice, exactly. And I think when you have characters like that are just give you everything, it's infectious to your team. You know that, and Isak can wait for a moment because he's got provisions coming left, right and centre. So they need to provide service to him, of course. He can make his own moments, but I really think that midfield battle is going to be where this game's won. Yeah,
Alexander Isak, though, does tend to take all the highlights because of what he could do in a game that we saw, like against Brighton. When they need someone to step up in the 89th minute from the spot, he managed to do it. What makes him so good? What do you like most about him?
Oh, well, he's a complete number 9. He can hold the ball up, he can score from anywhere, feet or head, and he's mobile. He gets around the pitch. My biggest worry going into the season for Newcastle was his fitness, because Callum Wilson's always going to be an issue fitness-wise. So only having 2 strikers, I did worry for Newcastle, but the form this man has been on has been absolutely sensational. And the biggest problem for Newcastle is keeping hold of him.
If they get Champions League football, though, if you were in this situation and, you know, there were other clubs, everyone says, are there bigger assignments, more glamorous assignments? But if you happen to get Newcastle, you've been with them to win a trophy, to end a very long wait, you've then helped them qualify for the Champions League. Do you think you'd be inclined to stay?
I mean, that's only a question for Alexander, isn't it? I'm sure there's going to be a lot of clamber. I'm sure that resolve's going to be tested throughout the summer. And unfortunately, footballers get their heads turned sometimes.
He's just sat on the fence. I've said, what would you do? No, said,
what would I do?
Yes.
I personally would stay, but if the likes of a Real Madrid come knocking, how often does that happen in your career?
What would you do? What do you think?
I think you stay for another season. Like you said, they are heroes in Newcastle, every single one of them, especially him. And I think the fact that he's breaking records, the fact that he is the man in that team, it's a great feeling. You can go somewhere else and suddenly it all changes. Like, ride this wave for a bit longer, I would say.
Do you know, when I was looking at this game, sorry, Glenn, I know you're doing the stats tonight. Just allow me a moment here, please. When I was looking at this game, it surprised me that Enzo Fernandez in 2025 is second in terms of creating chances to Mo Salah.
With Enzo, again, it's a lot of, there's passes from deep in midfield that he makes, lovely passes. And I think if you look at his whole time at Chelsea, you probably ask yourself, watching those tapes, why is no one else capitalising on this? And that's where Maresca, you look at how he's utilised his squad and how it's changing things. You're getting the most out of him. You're seeing him pop in the box to score finishes as well, which is great. I think he's finally finding his feet. He did have some difficulties with the injury as well, where he wasn't 100%. You're seeing the best of that player that Chelsea bought for that fee. And I think finally the marriage between him or your Caicedo or your Lavia or wherever Cole Palmer is, there's a sense of balance now. Everyone's doing what they need to do and not finding themselves in weird positions.
Does he get if you play Cole Palmer in the higher midfield role, so say in the 8, does he get in those 2 6s? I personally think Caicedo needs to be in there.
Caicedo
so then
has
it's
to be
between
there. And what Lavia's, you saw Lavia in the Liverpool game. It's different. Press resistant, able to get out of danger. I think if you put Cole Palmer in a wing position, you can then have him in an 8. and can have that
So
flexibility.
you're sacrificing Cole Palmer for Enzo.
But Cole Palmer especially can do it anywhere. He can do it anywhere, can't he?
Well rescued.
Well, what are you doing?
I don't think I play him.
Who, Enzo?
Yeah. I think Labby is that good. I don't think we've seen the best of him yet. I think he's got more potential, more to give, and I think you can't leave Caicedo out from that defensive responsibility he gives.
Okay, so Newcastle versus Chelsea, St James's Park, same number of points, same goal difference. Everybody's fighting for Champions League football. I can't wait to hear these guys' predictions at the end of the show.